Welcome again, viewers and listeners, to the Athletes United podcast on Edge Radio Network, where truth still matters. I'm your host, Big Mel, and once again, we're co-hosted by my own Sonny, former Houston Rockets, former Harlem Globetrotter international basketball sensation, the great Lorenzo Johnson. Say hello to the folks.
Hello
Sonny.
everyone. Welcome.
You know, Sonny, we live in a dynamic city, Houston, Texas, where in many respects they have spawned a black aristocracy on certain sides of this town. You know what I mean? And they brought innovations, they brought, kind of business developments and trendsetters to some degree. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I'm moving back to the city of Houston. And, oh man, this is 20-some years ago. I'd lived here before. And about 100 miles north of here, stopped to get some gas, right? And brother on the other side of the pump from me, and notice I have Kansas license plates, out-of-town plates. And he says to me, so, visiting some relatives or showing up for an occasion or something? I says, no, actually I'm moving to Houston. And he stops his hose and gets a serious scrutinous look on his face and walks over to me and says, have you checked with Harrison?
You should stop it.
So, that lets you know. I told him, well, obviously not, but perhaps I should at this juncture. With that said, I'd like to introduce to the show today and to the platform Mr. David Harris, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so
David
much.
Harris, yes indeed.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited about being here and being part of this wonderful program.
Absolutely, absolutely. Harris, you've been involved in so much in this city. You've been one of those trendsetters I was referring to, and business people. Sonny, some people collect, like rare coins, stamps, sometimes finite rock formations, this kind of. It collects strange things. Harris collects people. Okay.
Resource guy.
A resource guy, yes. You might show up at his house. He had this garage, man, that was marbleized. The floor was marble. It's pool table, it's Skelly table. Now, who plays Skelly anymore, all right? It's a Skelly table in there. Card tables, you name it. The place was glam. You might show up in there, man, and see anybody from Martin Luther King III, I'm serious, to some local rap sensation, to Nancy Pelosi. I'm not joking, man. Anybody may be in their garage, and I was blown away with that, but that is the kind of touch and the kind of resourcefulness that you've been, Harrison. Give us some insight. What's going on? You're a business developer. You're involved in some business that, tell you what, give us a snippet of one of the favorite businesses you've been involved with.
Well, Mel, as you know, I've been an entrepreneur most of adult life.
Indeed.
I like telling the story, actually, that when we had church service, and you know how they pick the deacon's son, the pastor's son,
Sure.
and I was chosen as one of those folks who, it was career day, what children want to be. And so 4 or 5 of us up there, and first person, she wanted to be a nurse. Everybody clapped, thought it was awesome. Next kid wanted fireman.
Fireman.
Yeah.
All right.
Noble.
All right.
Next kid wanted to be a policeman. One more before me wanted to be Batman.
Batman. Okay.
When it got to me, I said I wanted to be. And that was early on in my life as a young boy. And I've been fortunate to work for myself and provide jobs. But to answer your question, I could think back and several opportunities that were identified, created, tremendous opportunity, not only helping my family, but helping others. But one of my favorite business is this company called Bluebird.
Bluebird. Is that right?
Bluebird.
Indeed.
The host here, I've known for many, many, many years. I tell folks, I remember when we had an afro.
We're talking long ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. But Mel had decided, Big Mel had decided that he get into the private industry himself and talk with me about how we could possibly do something together. very fortunate to come together with a company called Blue. So to answer your direct question, one of my favorite companies, and one of the reasons why it was my favorite company, obviously, because
All right.
your commitment to
That's
quality,
right.
making sure that customer service was,
Mhm.
and then being able to work with major corporations, lottery out of Carolina,
Sure.
Texas, lottery here,
Sure.
Xerox,
Xerox Incorporated.
provided
Yes.
carry across the state. So
Yes.
I could go on down the line of opportunities, but
Yes.
yeah, Bluebird was one of them.
Huh. That's interesting. Sonny, you know a little bit about Bluebird. As a matter of fact, meet one of the senior accounting executives of Bluebird.
Yes.
And Sonny, what do you think about this? I mean, here we are. We're talking business. We're talking opportunity here. You just heard him talk about Bluebird. What do you think?
One thing comes to mind when I think about Harris here
Mm-hmm.
is leverage. Think about the amount of contacts and stuff like that he has. There's a lot that he can bring to the table there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of introducing us to different lanes, different people.
Absolutely. Now, Harris, as one of your personal passions, and this is probably not obvious, you were involved in AAU basketball development for youth at one point.
Oh yeah.
Give us some insight there.
Well, the game has, that whole area of development has just blown up. Years ago you had Converse. If you were a real player, you work hard.
Yes, some stars. Yes, some stars.
Today, obviously, you've got everybody from Adidas to Nike to Under Armour, you name it, all sponsor these AAU teams.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the talent level of young men and women today, these organizations are putting money in those communities to help those individuals grow from an athletic perspective, as well as from an educational perspective.
Interesting.
They're making sure today that they work not only on the basketball court and making sure that individual strives and learns, but also they want to make sure that they're doing a thing in the classroom. So I'm excited about that. But when you look at the programs today, and you look on the traveling teams, it's nothing for a kid. I'll use an example. My son, Dannon Harris, played years and years ago with T-Mac, traveling team. And I remember we went to our first practice with T-Mac, and I was there dropping my son off. I decided to stay. And
you decided to stay.
Yeah, I decided to stay.
Just
I ended up being GM.
Yeah, of course.
But that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But I decided to stay and watch it. And I thought I'd see 10, 12 kids working out. It was 4 kids.
Wow.
4 kids. That's the way it works today. It was 4 kids, cones, running through drills and so forth. And we got ready to play. The team got ready to play in a tournament in Austin. And when we got there, one of our team Dallas, another member came out of trying to think, New Orleans. So we ended up with 11 players, but they're from around the country.
Wow.
Kids were being flown in, playing at this high level, and they were on this team and were literally traveling all over the country.
One of these select kind of programs.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, we're sitting next to a man. Let me tell you, you mentioned your son. We're sitting next to a man who's done it all. And he's done it at the highest levels of his game. Outstanding high school basketball player, a Hall of Fame high school basketball player, outstanding college basketball player. Listen, in the state of Colorado, that's one word. You mentioned the word Buffs. Everybody knows who you're talking about. Everybody knows who you're talking about. The Buffs. Because that's Colorado, right?
Yes.
They have the most renowned program typically. They have the most talked about program, and obviously the strongest endowment. But there's a program a little north of there, a little west of there in Collins, right?
You're right.
Yeah, north of there, called Colorado State.
Oh, yeah.
Huh? And it's the equivalent of, let's say, perhaps A&M beating hell out of UT. Or some program like that.
Got it.
That's a grudge match. During my fellow's stay there, they owned the bus.
Come on.
They owned, and one of those guys,
Hold on,
they
guys,
owned
hold
it.
on,
They
wait a
owned
minute.
it.
Did I hear you say
Owned.
Now, I've been to
Owned.
the University of Colorado and all those mountains up there and how beautiful it is and that program. And, of course, as you stated, it is the UT of the state.
Yes.
And so to suggest that Colorado State was
They
controlling
owned
that is one heck of
it.
an accomplishment.
We have the receipts.
Now
Man.
we're talking about basketball.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Now, football was great while I was there as well. We produced a number of pros from the likes of Joey Porter,
Oh, yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers, Clark Hagens also played on the championship team there. And it was a number of guys went on to play in the pros. Played on the great Sonny Lubick.
Yes, I remember.
Yes. But he owned one particular player in general. We'll mention his name. We won't mention his name. His last name starts with Billingsley and Billups.
Yeah, I heard of that guy. I saw him on television.
Exactly. They happened to own those buffs at that time. So this young man's done it all.
Yeah.
Done it all. Lorenzo Johnson is his name. He's played the Houston Rockets.
Yes.
Played internationally. Played the Globetrotters for a while. So I would reference you, my friend. I'll defer to you. And give him some of your pedigree here.
Yeah. Where do you want me to start?
Okay, start with Katie Ballers.
Okay. Well, this is an organization that like you said earlier, entrepreneurship. I got involved with this. I worked in education for a number of years. And then as I transitioned out of education, started Katie Ballers.
Awesome. Okay.
It's an AAU program. In addition to this, I also have what you call Lojo's Elite Basketball. So that's where I do private lessons, group instructions, camps, clinics, that kind of stuff. And the way I set it up, go inside. This is nonprofit in the Lojo's for profit, both working together.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that was my
Let me
idea.
commend you on having a continued vision and wanting to give back and make a difference. The fundamentals of the game. You do not have to be, and most of us, we're not Steph Curry.
Yeah, for sure.
From a shooting perspective, right?
Absolutely.
But look at his fundamentals. What makes him extremely successful? There's a lot of people who can shoot the ball, but how can you move without the ball? How can you position yourself shoulder-wise to be positioned to be able to take a jump shot? How do you turn into the? Well, let me stop. You're the expert.
I'm loving that. I'm loving that because my foundation was based on that. Because coming into AAU, I think AAU oftentimes gets bad rap about coaches lacking the pedigree, coaches not really coaching, coaches just throwing the ball out, letting them play. Whereas, I come in from a situation where I coached high school ball, had a pretty successful run at that, and I wanted that to carry over to AAU. So, word you mentioned a while ago was fundamentals. I'm big on that. So when I do my teaching, when I was, involved with the AAU, a big emphasis placed on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, you look at guys like Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, guys like Pops and myself, who I consider guys with high basketball IQ, were able to pick up on details, right? Like small details. Like I watch the game, but I see so much further than what the average fan is like. Ooh, wow, he dunked. Did you see what he did?
Exactly.
Now
that's where the meat and potatoes are.
Absolutely.
I find it interesting when you look at it, and you've been there. You've played professional ball. When you go to one of you guys' practice, I played a little ball too.
Yeah, play a little ball.
Yeah, I played a little ball with you. Matter of fact, he carried me around for a few years. But having said all that, but you go to a professional practice. And that's when you truly get an opportunity to see, even at that level, fundamentals, again, the key. Yeah, they're not doing a whole lot of up and down scrimmaging and that type of thing. Guys over in the corner working on free throws. Guys are working, absolutely, working on skills.
You look at the games now in the bubble, like what have you. many of those youngsters, practically all of those youngsters, at some point encountered programs such as yours, such as Katie Ball's, such as the AAU programs you're talking about. Famously, this kid out of Boston, star for Boston
Right now?
right now.
Oh, you talking about
Tatum.
Tatum.
Yeah.
Grew up in the bronze camp.
Did he really?
Grew up in the bronze camp, and I
Wow.
found it so telling. A couple of years ago in the playoffs, he had a good smash on LeBron, right? And instead of just heading back down court, he started brushing shoulders.
I saw that. I recall that.
And the look on LeBron's face was complete confusion, just utter confusion.
Right.
Saw him as a kid, all the way through.
Yeah, I love that. They grow up in these camps. AAU has been a wellspring for a lot of the talent that we're looking at today.
Yeah.
So coaches matter.
I would say, though, I would really like to see more AAU coaches interface with high school coaches. If you're a high school coach and you've got an exceptional young man or young woman playing for you, and you really think they have some opportunity, and they're working on or playing for one of these AAU teams or select teams, have that high school coach say, "Hey, look, Mel is going to be coming back next year as a junior. These are the areas that I see that I'd like to see him work on. Would you make sure over the summer that you work with him in these areas? Not just win games, not just let the kid go out there and win games like you were talking about. Making sure that there's a conversation between the AAU and coach and the high school coach. In the old days when we played, you're not familiar with this, but we know the high school coach determined everything.
By all means.
Today that has changed. So if that high school coach can continue to support the AAU coach and the AAU coach continue to support the high school coach, I think it helps the athlete even more,
Sure.
no matter what the sport is.
I like to interject with.
All right.
I experienced something when trying to foster a relationship like that. What I noticed that coaches that I became involved with in that aspect oftentimes felt intimidated
Really?
by my background, number one.
Okay.
Secondly, they felt that maybe I was trying to come in and take their job.
And you know, being 6'10" and about 250 didn't have anything to do with it, I'm sure.
It's possible. It's possible, but I found that troubling. You know what I mean? I'm trying to help.
Okay.
You more reserved because you think maybe administration is going to get a hold to me, maybe want to bring me in to replace you. At the end of the day, as I said earlier, I'm an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
And I love being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So, you know, when I was trying to do that, I had no intentions of coming in, I'm coming in to take your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I find that
That's an interesting point.
I have that issue.
Yes.
And then another thing we can talk on, I don't know if we coming up on the break, but, you know, guys, you know, colleagues of mine that I discuss that have kids, oftentimes when we've had success, find it challenging to kind of be involved in our kids' development process because of the intimidation factor, right? One of my friends had a nice, successful run, played overseas, played in the NBA with a number of teams, the Boston Celtics, San Antonio Spurs, a couple other teams. He was like, man, I work with my son, but like as far as the games and stuff like that, I just kind of stay out the way because there's that intimidation thing that I was talking about. Like they think that I want to come in and take their job. They're kind of intimidated by me because they know what I know. You know what I mean? They played at the highest level. You know, he gonna come in here thinking this. Wow. Whereas all I want to do is, you know, like my man said, all he want to do is come in and try to help the program. Well, so I found that I've been through that.
I'll tell you this: if you are a program that's sponsored by a shoe company, you're going to have a coach that has some understanding of the game. That's number one. If you are one of the AAU teams that's not sponsored by a shoe company, and you're fortunate enough to have a parent that has played professional sports, I don't care what sport it is. Now, we're talking basketball, but if you played professional golf, what it takes to become a professional and make a living in anything. Let's take what you do every day for a living. Whatever you're doing, you know what it takes to be able to accomplish that goal.
Very true.
So for a person who has that opportunity to have a parent that has played a professional sport, who's willing to get involved with your organization. I served as a quasi general manager with TMAC. Of course, TMAC was sponsoring the team, shoes and jerseys and all of that.
Mhm.
But as we traveled around the country, these young men look to individuals like yourselves, because if you are able to do it,
Mhm.
it's not pie in the sky,
Mhm. Mhm.
But at the end of the day, there has to be, in my assessment, a much better communication between coaches and parents who have played, as well as high school coaches. Because, as you stated, you have a for-profit company, a non-profit company. You're trying to build young men and young women to get to that next level. You're not looking to take someone else's job. You're believing in helping folks create opportunities to have jobs.
Sure. 20 minutes after hour, we're talking with Mr. David Harris, entrepreneur extraordinaire and quite an athlete himself. And we'll be right back after this message.
We've been out of control since we got hit back in March 2020. Mortality rates keep climbing. Infection rates go up and down and then back up again. How long will this go on? No clear answer. Will a vaccine even be effective as this virus continues to spread and to mutate? No clear answers there either. I'm a trained nutritionist, herbologist, personal trainer, behavior modification and stress sciences expert. I'm also a COVID-19 and pneumonia survivor. I've watched the continuous wall-to-wall news coverage, and while yes, wearing a mask and social distancing are crucial now, you're not being given important tools that you need in order to fortify your first line of defense, your best line of defense, which is your own immune system. What's going on here? There are simple, affordable, and natural ways to help build your immune system to fight any virus or bacteria now, and it starts inside of you. That's why I need to invite you to join me for Beyond the Mask, an intimate talk about vital ways to immediately begin boosting your immune system. Are you worried about the potentials of a second wave? Are you concerned now that your immune system may not be strong enough? Let me show you now the changes that will allow you to optimize it. Let me show you how to maximize your exercise benefits in a 12-minute routine that you'll do every other day to easily increase your metabolism, strengthen your respiratory and immune systems, and give you better circulation throughout your body. Listen, sugar feeds both bacteria and viruses. Let me show you ways to kick that sugar addiction now and to get some weight off. Let me share with you keys to better nutrition that boosts your immune system. We are all under too much stress, and stress weakens your immune system. It single-handedly leaves you vulnerable to all kinds of health issues and infections because stress reduces your immune cell numbers and their ability to function. Let me show you tools that you'll easily integrate into your daily life now to naturally reduce your stress cortisol response. I also want you to know about some nutritional supplements that have been shown to naturally improve your immune system and your overall health. Since January, there have been over 700 studies released worldwide on the relationship between COVID-19 and vitamin D3 deficiency. You need to know why. You want to improve your own immune defenses now, want to take back your control? Sign up today for Beyond the Mask and join me as I give you information and tools to easily get you back on track towards a healthier overall immune system now.
And we're back with the Athletes United podcast and the Edge Radio Network, where truth still matters. We're talking with Mr. David Harris here, and as we broke, we were talking about athletes and development and beyond sports. He talked about the Association of Education and how personal development was a point of view for some of these aid sponsorships. And we brought up the notion that an HBCU recently have hired an luminary in the game of football, and he's bringing an all-star cast with him as a Hall of Fame cast with him as assistant coaches.
Wow.
Terrell Owens and some other people.
Warren Sapp.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll give
Sapp
you a
is
break.
Yeah.
We're hoping this is a formula, if you will, because HBCUs are getting more, becoming more in vogue suddenly, particularly given some of the social conditions that we've seen. But let's talk about Doug Williams for a moment, just as a break.
Sure.
Doug had gone off to Grambling after his Hall of Fame career, and all hopes went with Doug. He was sort of replacing the legendary Eddie Robb.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. And he was one of the last connections to Robb. It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
For various reasons. Reputably, he honed himself, if you will. And so their departure was less than stellar. And so I'm very hopeful for this circumstance. Deion don't need a job. Neither of those guys need a job per se. Whatever they earn there would be, whatever they have negotiated, I'm sure, but it's something simple. They're bringing visibility. They're adding value beyond just coaches. So let's hope this works. Let's hope this is a formula. Let's hope this goes forward. I can't recall the name right now, but that's a young man ranked probably in top 5 in high school basketball right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, kid going to Howard, I believe.
Think about that. Think about that.
I'm so excited about Prime making a decision like this.
Uh-huh.
As you said, he doesn't need the money.
No.
One of the greatest football players who's ever lived. When you think about Prime, and you start talking about greatest football players.
Yeah.
When you think about that, people talk about Jim Brown.
Uh-huh.
People talk about Jerry Rice.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about Prime. Bo Jackson, had he been able to have a longer career,
sure.
Bo knows he would have been in the conversation. But those three, and for him to say, hey, you know what? Because you got to understand, he had been offered. He being Prime had been offered jobs in the NFL.
Sure.
He had been offered jobs at the college level with different universities.
Mm-hmm.
With his personality, with his charisma and knowledge of the game, could have been every Sunday on someone's broadcast.
Sure.
But his decision to go to a historically black college and university, and then even in the South,
the SU,
to make that happen, says a lot about him as a person, his character. And I think his is going to be different than what happened at Grambling. And the reason why I think that is that Prime's highlight, his aura. Can you imagine for a moment if the head coach for Alabama comes into a young person's living room with their parents there? Those parents and that young man are just ecstatic.
Enamored.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. But then the next night, Prime comes in that same, it's at that same level.
Exactly.
Or higher.
Exactly.
And he hadn't coached one game yet.
Mm.
And now I'm just hearing today, I didn't realize they just brought in those additional coaches who are also very big personalities, will know how to communicate with those kids.
Mm-hmm.
What you'll see, I believe, more kids who have the ability to go anywhere in the country will say, I want to be with this guy. I want to be around this type of program. And if it is successful, because everyone's going to be looking at it,
mm-hmm.
you'll see more of it. Sure. And if that happens, because, Jerry Rice comes out of what?
It's been in Mississippi. Where was this at?
Valley.
Mississippi Valley.
I think
Yeah.
Valley, yeah.
Talking about Mississippi Valley, there's a guy that came out of Jackson State, did okay in Chicago.
He did all right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He did all right.
Yeah. So when you start talking about greatest players,
Uh-huh.
those HBUs produced them.
Of course. That's powerful. It's a funny story about Prime. I'm watching him. He was with Atlanta Falcons in his early career.
Mhm.
And I'm watching him one Sunday, and he intercepts a pass on the sideline, and he's gone. And perhaps 10 yards away at some point is some guy, probably 6'9", 300. And Prime stepped out of bounds. So the announcers started speculating, why did he step in? You could have got 5 more. Come on, why did you do this? So after the game, the Falcons win the game, and they interviewed him in the locker room. And they, sort of had him recount their circumstances, sort of asked him about that. And this guy looks in the camera without flinching and called it a business decision.
He made a business decision. Now that I can appreciate and understand.
I'm in my little tiny apartment back home, man, kicking. My feet are in the floor, and I'm on the floor, my feet in there kicking, man. That was a hell of a statement.
Speaking of statements, I got one that he used to say that I used to swear by. He would say, if you look good, you play good. If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good.
Prime.
Oh man, when he said that killed me right there. I was like, oh man.
Hey, have you noticed his teams were that way? When he coached his son, all of them, looked great.
Yeah.
They were professional in how they carried themselves, and they won.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it.
I am too. I'm looking forward to the trend line.
I think so. Me too. I mean, another aspect that we didn't discuss with him, obviously he brings so much, he garners so much attention, right? But then now we are in an era where social media is king.
Yes,
right?
You're absolutely
so
right.
Exposure.
Like Twitter.
For these kids.
You don't have to have the big networks coming to Jackson State or to Texas Southern University here in Houston. Now with the social media, if that kid is getting it done, putting it in, doing work, it's going to be seen.
It's going to be seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just going through my phone yesterday, and every platform I went through, via Instagram, via Twitter, he was on there. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, seriously. Deion Sanders. You know what I mean? He's networking with people in Jackson already right now.
Really?
You know what I mean? Talking about how he can mentor these young men. It's bigger than just football. That's what impresses me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because everybody's not going to go to the NFL.
That's right.
Let's just be honest about that, right? But at the end of the day, he's on a mission to make sure every kid that goes through that program is successful. Period.
That is huge. That is absolutely huge because, like you said, not every kid's going to be a professional athlete. Matter of fact, I read something recently that there are more African American brain surgeons than there are athletes.
How about that?
Brain surgeons.
On a per capita basis.
On a per capita basis.
Harris, I often quote and paraphrase Coach Wooden and probably butcher his line, but he said something to the effect that if after 4 years, all he has taught a kid is basketball, he's completely felt it. And that's how he saw it.
Well, he take it life. I mean, my wife never played a sport in her life, and she tells our grandkids, "Stay ready, so you don't have to get ready." And that's a Wooden phrase. And I'm thinking,
I like that.
This guy is teaching life, and that's what the great coaches, the Lombardis, the Robinsons, and so forth. That's what they do, and that's where you see Prime not only affecting it on the football field, but throughout that individual's life.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the confidence that he had. Like he was talking about that was a business decision. You know what I mean? He didn't even flinch. Look directly into the
right.
business decision.
Live to play another day, in other words.
Right.
Yes. So we're quite confident, man, about who he is and what he's about to accomplish down there. And man, that's hopeful. I mean, I'm sitting here so hopeful. And I'm feeling inspired by the move itself and the amount of attention it's generated, the kind of credibility it brings to the SWAC.
Absolutely.
SWAC is known for a conference where, like the Raid Bug House, you go in, you don't come out.
Yeah.
I don't recall a single basketball coach coming out of SWAC. Not a single one. Many, many, many years ago, the old great basketball coach at Southern.
Oh yeah.
Jacoby.
Oh, gee.
Jacoby.
Losing it, but I know you're speaking of.
He went to be an assistant with Dick McGuire at Southern Cal. That's not Southern Cal, South Carolina for a while. And he tells a story that he had to go and get an appendicitis. McGuire had appendicitis or something of that nature. He'd go in the hospital. And none of the players were happy with the offensive way McGuire ran it and the patterns. So they went off and won a couple of games, and McGuire's looking at it on TV, and he has no idea what they're doing. And he calls him kind of like, what is going on here? And Jacoba was his name, Jacoba, J-A-C-O-B-R, whatever. He told him, "We know it is, Coach. Catch away, man.
You know what? Well, we talked about what it'll do education-wise, and help build these individuals. But think about the economics. As a businessman, you think about what's getting ready to happen in that city.
Sure.
Okay, what's getting ready to happen when they renegotiate their contract on the radio programs and on the national programs for the SWAC. Okay, let me assure you, millions upon millions upon millions of dollars are going to be generated in that community because of Deion's decision. An African-American male who loves the game and wants to make a difference in that community decided to go to Jackson State, and it's literally going to change overnight.
I have to agree with you. I mean, what he brings to that general milieu, the credentials that he brings, it's going to be far-fetching.
I think we should definitely not fail to mention, he's in the recent years, he's been an analyst, right?
Yes.
So he knows the ins and outs in terms of TV, because if you look at the Jackson States and, Southerns and Grambling, why is it you never see them on ESPN?
Well,
ABC, these big networks.
Yes.
Deion has the exposure to it as of recent years, right?
Absolutely.
So he may be in a better position than Doug was in terms of being able to navigate those waters.
Absolutely will. Because as you see on his shirt, he's wearing Jackson State. Every time you see him, he's pumping the program and what it's going to be and how it's going to be. I walk into a sporting goods store and I'll find UT hat. I'll find Texas A&M's hat. I'll find Rice for baseball and so forth. You're going to have to go, previously, I've had to go to the local bookstore at that university. If I wanted a TSU property, I'd have to go to the bookstore on the campus of TSU. I think that's getting ready to change also. I'm going to be trying to find me a Sonic Boom hat and just to support that program.
But guys, here's something I'm going to bring to light. Kids have changed.
Yes.
Kids have changed. The youngsters have changed. If you met one of my former junior college teammates, Phil Spence.
Oh, yeah.
Phil was on that national championship team there at North Carolina State, that 74 team with David Thompson. He's still highly regarded in that town. He's from Raleigh, North Carolina. And here recently, we've seen this kid, T.J. Warren, with the Indiana Pacers. Awesome kid. Went on a streak there. He was averaging about 40 points a game to play. Awesome. He's just awesome. So he's there at North Carolina State at the time. That's their go-to. Bill calls me one day and says, "Man, got a call from Coach Gottfried, who was the son of man I coached with at Southern University." Says, and Mel, he says, he called me out there to talk to these youngsters. He said, "These guys talk to coaches like you and I wanted to talk to coaches." So they actually say it. And he went on to describe a circumstance that was completely off the charts in terms of coach, leader, follower kind of differentiation. He says it just is beyond anything he's ever imagined. The way you talk to coaches, how doggone awkward and solid they can be. And so I'm wondering if a Deion, a Warren Sapp, a T.O. can walk into the living room and impress these youngsters to that extent.
I don't think they're going to have any problem with that. I mean, you talk about Deion Sanders, right? You're talking about a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Right? Warren Sapp,
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
Terrell Owens, arguably one of the best
Hall of
receivers, should be Hall of
He is.
Famer, if not.
He is. Yeah. He just didn't attend the ceremony.
Right.
But definitely.
You see
without
what I'm
question
saying?
is, yeah.
So, I mean, that speaks volumes right there. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to have any problems. I mean, think about a coaching staff. I think Deion is putting together something that we've probably never seen before.
That's
I mean,
right.
how many coaching staffs have you seen where there's
The Hall of Fame.
4 or 5 coaches on the staff, right?
Yes.
And out of the 5, 4 of them are Hall of Famers.
Huh.
I've never seen it.
I've never
I answer
seen
your
that.
question. Never.
If I'm a kid,
And it happened to be black.
right? If I'm a kid and I'm playing
Yeah.
football right
Never
now,
seen it.
Yeah.
Jackson State is on the radar for me.
Yes. And as a parent, I'm saying, okay, if they come calling, I'll listen.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No. The other thing, I understand kids are different today. Even in our homes and raising our children, they're different.
Mhm.
But even children understand and appreciate discipline.
Sure.
There are certain things about sports that helps you with life, and discipline is part of it.
Absolutely.
You communicate with them different. Which coach said that? No, he doesn't treat every kid the same. You know, there used to be back when we were. I treat all the kids the same.
Yeah,
No,
right,
that ain't happening today.
No.
You don't treat them the same,
No.
right?
That's
And
it.
I think the Deons and the Saps and those guys, they understand
I
that.
understand that.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
think
So
so.
I hope I agree with you. I think they're going to be
I
fine.
think that's a great point that you brought up, Pops. But I think that's more of a prevalent issue at the professional level,
Really.
because you have a situation where coaches are paid pretty handsomely, right? But if a coach he's making $5 million a year, right? You got a player he's making $20 million a year.
Okay.
Can't do a lot of talking back, can you?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think
Unless
that's
you won a
more-
few Super Bowls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
like my man with the Patriots.
Oh yeah.
He don't have no issue. You better check your ego when you walk in the door. with him.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
it's not like that across the board.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Interesting.
I think that's more prevalent at the professional level. I don't think it's going to be an issue
I
at
love it.
the college level.
41 minutes after the hour, we're sitting here talking with Dr. David Harris, I call him, and we're going to be right back after this message. And we're back with Athletes United Experience on Edge Radio, and where truth still matters. As a side note to our viewers, the Art and Jazz Fest voter registration drive, and as we talked about this earlier, will be held right here at the Midtown Bar and Grill, September 26th, beginning at 4 p.m. That is the Art Jazz Fest voter registration drive. So come on out, prepare to complete your civic duty, and vote your consciousness. Okay. As we broke, we're talking to Dr. Crystal Mark here, and she had
The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and you know, sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information.
And you know, my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. You know, I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay.
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Welcome again. We're back. The Athletes United podcast of the Edge Radio Network, where truth still matters. There's a program note, listeners and viewers. Tomorrow at this very establishment is the voter registration drive from 4 to 6 p.m. I understand. Is that correct, crew?
Correct.
And there's a jazz and arts fest, if you will, from 6 to 8 afterwards. So be here tomorrow, 415 West Gray at the Midtown Board and Grill. From 4 to 6 p.m. Incidentally, guys, we were talking about social conditions that influence or affect sports. They're inseparable, if you ask me. You have a lot of young people of color and young black athletes participating in these events, and one would expect them to be indifferent to what's going on around them. One would expect them to somehow create, a chasm between. Listen, it's all the same. It's all in one. Consequently, I'm having a hard time with, various pundits and sports analysts who have a problem with an athlete for standing up and recognizing that he has a platform to speak to change, to speak to social conditions. LeBron James, for example, have come under flack from some ridiculous chief of police saying, "Will you match the funds for he's killed to get the shooter who shot the policeman?" Why would he challenge LeBron to that extent? And it's not about whether or not he can get some funds. Right. The city of Los Angeles doesn't need funds. It was a direct kind of an attempt to silence this young man for standing up. The athletes, some of them are peacefully demonstrating by kneeling, by dropping their heads. We got problems with that. So it's not a matter of we disdain rioting, we disdain, social unrest. We disdain athletes who stand up and speak out, period. Or any young person of color who stand up and speak out. And that's the tragedy in this matter, that is the contradiction in this matter. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I'm shaking my head as you speak because athletes are part of this culture, part of this community, and yes, they have a special skill sets where people will pay to watch them perform and be entertained by it, but they bleed, they have emotions, they have sisters, brothers, parents, and they live in this world just like everyone else. Mm-hmm. Because let me assure you, when they take that uniform off, and I'm talking about these black athletes, these young ladies who are playing in the WNBA and tennis, and when they take those uniforms off and get in their cars, they're driving while black. Mm-hmm. They're living while black. And they are susceptible to the same systemic racism that any other African American is. Now, if they could wear their jerseys when they left the court or left the field, kept their helmets on and their number and their name across the back, and they get stopped, they would be treated differently. Mm-hmm. But because they are who they are, when those uniforms are off, they are getting the same treatment. So I can assure you, they want to speak out, because we're three black men sitting here, and I can raise my hand and say, I had the talk. My parents told me what to do and how to do. And I have a son, and I gave him the talk, letting him know, yes, things have changed. Yes, you can go to different restaurants. Yes, you can do these different things. Right. But there is systemic issues, whether it's in the justice system, other places. But understand, make sure that you follow these rules that we talk about, because I want you to come home tonight. Yeah. And that should not be, nobody's saying white privilege is a bad thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I just think that white privilege should be for everybody, not take away, but add. Yeah. So I love it. I respect them, and I appreciate the actions that they're taking and using their platform to say, no, it's not going away. I'm going to keep it in your face.
Absolutely. Key word you said there, I think, platform. Okay. Just like us up here, it's a platform. But I feel like when you have a platform, I feel like you have a responsibility to speak
Right.
up and say something when you see something wrong.
Mhm.
You know, and I applaud these guys for the efforts they've made thus far. And you know, at some point, obviously, there is discouragement they're dealing with. You know,
Sure.
looking at the outcome of this situation. But I say press forward.
Yeah.
I say don't allow them to, you know, get you discouraged.
So am I hearing you say there's an opportunity right now? You believe the climate is where all communities, black, white, brown, all saying enough is enough? Do you think this is the time, truly?
I think it's the time. I mean, I think we keep pushing forward. I definitely think we keep pushing forward. I think we got a ways to go, though.
But you mentioned white as well. And far too often we use the term white supremacy and we make them exempt from any of these mass illnesses in the society. No. White supremacy is in itself some kinds of social condition. It's a disease, my friend. It's a social illness which metastasized into a disease. It has somehow transformed the society from a group of people who could think, act, and operate independently, who could think, act, and operate socially together, into phylum kingdoms, into various pods of resistance.
But I think it's, I've been around a long time, I'm in my 60s.
Uh-huh.
I think it's more prevalent today than I've seen it in the open.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been there as an undergird, but in the open.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that?
I concur, but I think our leadership is a very important word.
That is a big
Pops
word
and
to
I
talk
throw around and we talk about often. And I think that the current person that's in leadership right now has empowered a lot of people.
You remember the movie that Denzel Washington played in? He was a football coach.
Oh, yes.
It was a Disney movie where they won all the game and they were in this town, if you will, and they had it was a true story. But where I want to go with this
Remember the Titans.
Yes, Remember the Titans. Thank you, Mel. A big Mel. There's a scene in there where there's two linebackers. One happened to be white, one happened to be black, and the white linebacker was the captain of the defensive team, and he was getting on the black athlete because he wasn't happy with something that he had done, and the black athlete said this: leadership reflects attitude. Leadership reflects attitude. You speak to leadership and the attitude of where we are in the country today. Think about it.
Well, I mean, and I was happy you talked about athletes, perhaps. Even policemen, when they take their uniforms off, black policemen.
Yeah.
We all live under the same precarity, if you will, and all subject to the same kinds of harassment, arrest, profiling, and the threat of being murdered in the streets, my friend.
Oh.
That's what I don't understand.
Incarceration rate has increased 700% in the last 37 years. 1 in every 3 young black male can expect to be jailed at some point in time in his life. These numbers are not insignificant. Listen, we get arrested at about the same rates. White, black, get arrested at about the same arrest rate. The conviction level, indictment conviction level is much different.
50% of the population is African American that's in the penal system.
My God.
Systemic racism. But getting back to your question, I think these athletes have the financial strength, and they're now, as they say, stay woke. They're awake, and they're saying, "Hey, let's work with anyone," because let me assure you, if you're not saying something, regardless of your color, if you're not speaking out, then you're part of the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Harris, we could go on and on with this. We're so grateful you came to visit us today.
Thank you for that.
You got to come back sometime, will you?
I'd love to.
All
I'd
right.
love to. Absolutely love to.
Back on the Athletes United podcast on the Edge Radio Network, where truth still matters. Tell them, Sonny, we're out.
And we out like a scout on a new route.
There you go. We'll see you next time.
All right.